Hey everybody, and welcome to Don't Copy That Floppy. I'm your host Lex.
I'm your other host Dan, and we are your weekly video game news podcast here on Chipbit Radio, chipbit.net, or possibly twitch.tv/DCTF podcast.
If you like to have some video with your audio,
we can do that. You can stare at the articles that we're staring at. Well, we stare at them.
So we broadcast on Fridays, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes.
On Chipbit and Twitch.
Talk about video game news. We got a bunch of video game news.
Yeah, what are some?
We don't actually have that much video game news this week.
It's April 21st.
Yes.
A Friday. And yeah, what do we have this week to talk about?
We're talking about video game streaming and how it's really popular. Talking about digital game sales, and a Chinese Steam competitor that may appear.
Ooh.
Or kind of has appeared, I guess.
Sort of.
It just happened.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about G2A, the game key sellers that we spoke about a little bit last week. There's been some drama going on with them, and it's developing a little more now than it was before. Talking about the Call of Duty. Talk a little bit about Persona. Going to talk about Code Vein, the Bandai Namco game that was teased last week, that has now been officially announced and shown off. Talk a little bit about Star Wars Battlefront. Because there's a lot to talk about with Star Wars Battlefront 2. And some other upcoming game releases, and just news about things that have come out, sales numbers, things like that. And we'll end the show talking about games that just came out, as well as games that are coming out in the next week or so. So let's get right into it. PC Gamer article from yesterday, the 20th, saying that more people watch gaming videos and streams than HBO, Netflix, ESPN, and Hulu combined.
That's crazy.
I believe it.
Yeah. People love watching games.
People love watching people play video games, and I'm sure this article kind of goes into some of the reasons why, but I would believe that some of the reasons why include Twitch is free, so it is very easy, as is YouTube. So it is very easy to watch these things.
Yep.
Because none of them are on services you have to pay for. Additionally, people like video games, but sometimes maybe you don't feel like playing a video game, or you don't feel like paying for a video game, and you want to still kind of experience it. So that's a reason to watch it. They also make great white noise while you're doing other stuff. I definitely use Let's Plays for that a lot, where I have to do something at home, and while I'm doing it, I just put on a Let's Play and listen to it and kind of tune in a little bit every so often. There's lots of good reasons to watch Let's Plays and streams and stuff like that. There's also this nice level of interaction you get with it, that you don't get necessarily, especially with streaming, that you don't necessarily get with television and movies and stuff like that, where you can actively talk to the person who's doing it.
You can tell them what a kind of idiot they are.
Yeah, how bad they are at the video game.
Yell
they
at
can't
them.
play the video game.
And then you can give them money. But yeah, so this, the worldwide gaming video content audience, Superdata seems to think is 665 million people, and they predict it to grow 21% between now and 2021.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, man. So
it'll go up to 800 million in the next few years, according to their predictions.
The subscriber counts for things like Netflix, somewhere near 100 million. Hulu is 12 million.
Whoa, Hulu, step it up. Get your game up.
Dude, Hulu sucks.
But they have those couple things on there that's I really want to watch that, but it's on Hulu.
Yeah.
I'm not paying for that.
Mm-hmm.
PewDiePie alone has over 54 million YouTube subscribers. So, even if not all of those people are actually watching his videos anymore,
it's a lot of people.
It still indicates a lot of people.
It's still bigger than Hulu's audience.
Yes. Also, this is a good point, that a lot of these services are not available in China yet, like Netflix. Whereas video game streaming and stuff is readily available everywhere.
That's a big market for that.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, it's a big market in general.
Yeah, it just seems for anything. Yeah, and like I said, YouTube and Twitch have made gaming video as mainstream as any primetime TV show. Like,
Also,
you can just watch it anytime you want. There's someone doing something 24/7. It's always there.
Netflix, what are you doing? Get into China. Why are you slacking on this?
Seriously. Gotta get that sweet, sweet China money. They make so many movies, too. You can get all these deals to put Chinese movies on Netflix.
And then we could watch more Chinese movies?
There's so many Chinese movies
I would
that
love
we don't
that.
even know about. I watched like 5 minutes of a Chinese movie last night.
The stunts, amazing.
It was a CG Chinese movie.
What?
It was crazy. There was a lion with ice powers.
That's great.
And he like killed the shit out of a ton of dudes with ice powers. And some lady like ran away. I don't really know what the movie was about because every single person in that scene with the lion like died. Even the two people who I assumed were going to be main characters, they just got like iced. Literally.
Oh, jeez.
No idea what the movie was about. Magic or something? I don't know. The CG wasn't bad though. League of Legends had over 100 million hours watched in February alone.
I have no... I still am mystified as to why people love MOBAs so much.
And I don't know why anyone wants to watch Counter-Strike for 40 million hours.
Ugh.
Because, like, I get that it's, like, very skill-based and competitive, but I don't know. I've always thought Counter-Strike just seemed really boring.
Well, at this point...
It's so plain.
Yeah, and the graphics are actually, like, super dated at this point.
Yeah, but look at Starcraft, which we'll be talking about later in the show. Starcraft's still, like, the golden child, and that game's dated as hell. It's about the gameplay, man. How about those graphics? But I kind of agree. Counter-Strike doesn't look that good, and it's really bland. It's like if you go back and like you played Half-Life 2 when it came out, and that game looked like amazing, and now you go back to Half-Life 2 and you're like, wow, these levels are so drab and uninteresting looking. I wonder which concrete hallway I'll go down this time. Oh, I'm in Ravenholm. It's so scary. All the buildings are made out of plywood.
Oh.
Whoa! It's weird how times change when you go back and look at old games that really like set up an atmosphere. And like they set it up because it was the best we'd seen at the time. But now you have like modern games that are really spooky. Like it's a really spooky video game. Like Resident Evil 7.
Sure.
Resident Evil 7 is pretty spooky, sets a good atmosphere. And you compare that to like older horror games like Resident Evil 1. The original, and it's just, you know, times change. Whereas back in the day, Resident Evil 1 on the PlayStation 1 was like horrifying.
Yeah.
But now it's laughably goofy looking. Not discounting the voice acting as being part of that as well.
Or like when you saw Night Trap when it first came out.
Oh, yeah.
You would have been so scared, except you wouldn't have.
Was anyone scared of Night Trap?
Because that game was
like,
always...
politicians?
That game was always a joke.
Yeah, I don't think anybody... I mean, people probably liked it and played it. It was like revolutionary at the time for what it tried to do. But I doubt it ever scared anyone.
I want more full motion video games.
I thought you were going to say I want more full frontal nudity in video games because we were talking about Night Trap.
That would be fine, too. Wait, is there nudity in Night Trap?
No.
I didn't think there was.
But it was one of those games that got people talking like there was nudity in it. Because there's girls in like 90s hitting each other with pillows. And if you're like a 90-year-old like white congressman, you probably think that that's basically full frontal nudity. Mm-hmm. It offends you just as much.
Yeah.
Seeing women have fun. How dare they?
So, we're saying, basically what we're saying is we just stream Night Trap at some point.
What we're saying is watch Night Trap.
Yeah.
Live on stream.
No, but, this article also, mentions that, they predict, $4.6 billion in revenue from gaming video and streams this year.
Dog.
And I mean, that's the thing, like, it is free, but every once in a while people are going to pitch in a couple bucks, to the streamer that they like.
Yeah.
Or there's going to be some sort of advertising deal.
Or they do charity things.
And because the audience is so massive, that even if you only have a very small percentage of it thrown in money, it still ends up being a ton of money.
Oh no, only half of the people watching video games on the internet gave us $1. We only made $350 million.
Oh no!
Also, it's important to note that this is also a thing that pretty much anybody can get into. So you have people watching streams and then realizing, hey, I can stream too. So it's a ever-growing thing. It's just more people keep doing it.
Yep.
And then more people start watching it. It just never stops. It's crazy. Good for video games. Suck at sports.
Video games, you did it. You beat literally everyone else.
Yeah, get fucked all other media outlets.
But where does radio compare on this?
Man, just bury it already.
I know, right?
No, radio's cool. You don't get like old talk radio has a certain charm to it. I mean, maybe charm's the wrong word. It still has a uniqueness to it that can be appreciated in between the fart noises and toilet flushing. Speaking of games and digital things, like streaming, digital game sales are now crushing boxed game sales in the United States. Digital's now accounts for 74% of all game sales.
Now, I don't know if this article in Video Games 24/7 from April 20th mentions this, but I think they don't, but I remember reading it elsewhere that apparently in the UK it's still more of a 50-50 split. So there are parts, so this is definitely not a global thing.
Right.
But typically...
It should also note that this is including add-on content, mobile apps, and social network games.
And that definitely does skew stuff.
Pretty hard.
Yeah. But it certainly still indicates a trend.
I'm just going to leave this picture on Tracer in a cute hat.
She's got a great hat.
Tiny little hat. Perfect.
That blue color scheme.
Yeah.
It's great.
Snazzy.
But yeah, so this is a trend. I mean, if you want to scroll down to the chart.
Yes. Put a tiny hat on that shirt.
Put a little blue hat on there. For the total physical format hat.
So in the last 6 years, it has shifted from 69% physical and 31% digital to 26% physical and 74% digital. It's a pretty big shift.
It's pretty much just swapped. But
I mean, like it says, mobile apps, social network games, and DLC all count into that.
But it's not like none of that stuff existed in 2010.
No, but there's more of it now.
Yeah.
And it's become more mainstream. Oh, not to say that it was like underground in 2010, but it's a growing market still, all that stuff. And now you get full game releases are more common digitally as well. Even for like super high profile releases. Like a friend of ours got Persona 5 digitally because he just didn't feel like going out and buying it in the store, so he's just like, I'm just going to download it.
Yeah.
Like, because you can.
I mean, it's so much easier.
And also, if you think about PC, you have Steam, which is a digital games marketplace.
That's the thing I was going to say.
Huge.
Because I'm a PC gamer.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time I bought a physical copy of a game.
PC games are a weird thing, because for a long time now, they've basically done away with physical copies. Because even like in 2010, a physical copy of a PC game was, you were just buying a piece of paper with a code on it to download the game digitally.
That's true.
Like, I bought Shogun 2 and it came with a CD, and I still don't know why. Because all it actually was a Steam key. But there's a CD in there too.
Yep.
Don't know why.
Just hanging out.
It's also, what the hell?
It's also way cheaper for the devs, right? Because if they don't have to ship and produce a physical product, then it's just saving them money so they can give better sales on the product itself as a digital version, which means people will be more likely to buy it.
The danger is what happens during the machine uprising when we lose access to all of our electronics.
Skynet, yes.
That's like the danger. But for real, the concern I've always had with digital stuff is like, I know you can like lose a physical copy of a game, like you misplace it or it gets broken or something. But I've always harbored a little bit of paranoia of like, but I don't really have these. Yeah,
and I think that's all. I think that it's there are definitely a lot of people who always talk about like the ownership of the games, and when you buy stuff through Steam, like how much do you actually own them?
Well, Steam's EULA agreement that you have to agree to when you make a Steam account and buy stuff states that they can just rescind your right to play the games you bought.
Yeah.
I mean, they're probably not going to, but they reserve the right to.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in just the fact that sentiment exists is off-putting to some degree. That they could just say, like, yeah, no one gets to play video games anymore. You don't really own them.
Because when the machine uprising happens and Gabe Newell is dethroned by the Steam AI,
oh no,
it'll take away all our games.
Gaben. Not Gaben.
Although I do have this beautiful vision of Gaben with a machine gun just fighting Terminator-style robots.
All dirty-faced with like a Valve headband on. Yeah. He'd do it. Mm-hmm. I believe in him. Would all the evil Valve robots just look like that guy, like Terminators, but with the Valve on their eye, like the company logo?
I mean, I assume they just all look like the robots from Portal.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or whatever robots are in Half-Life 2.
Do you know that in Germany, Team Fortress 2 was censored so that all the characters were robots?
Oh, really?
Because that game has, like, blood, and they're like, you can't kill people.
Does that
so they changed it so when you hit people in Team Fortress 2 in the German version, like, springs and gears fly out.
Does that mean that there are just no FPSs in Germany?
They're heavily censored in many cases.
Or, well, Team Fortress, is that, does that have an everyone rating or something? Maybe that's why they did it.
I think it was rated, like, mature or something.
Huh.
At least teen. It's pretty gory, actually. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is what I'm talking about, robots and Valve.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, everything's gonna be digital. If it continues at the rate that it's going, how many percentage points are we losing every year? Like,
it's slowed down a little bit.
Like 7 or 8?
Actually, it's been pretty consistent. Because it was 14, 11, 8, 7, 8, 5.
Oh,
so it has been steadily decreasing overall. But, I mean, we're still probably going to look at like a couple % drop again.
Yeah, we could
into this year.
We could potentially see it drop down into the teens.
Oh my god!
Next year,
crazy!
And this is why GameSpot needs to sell more T-shirts, because they're not selling any physical games. They're not doing it.
Got to sell those Funko Pops.
Yeah,
got to do it. GameStop is just becoming Hot Topic. They're not really about video games anymore. If they ever were.
There was this interesting breakdown of who people are playing games with.
Yeah.
Which is cool to me only in that it's like, hey, games are more social than ever.
Yes.
Because a lot of the games that see the most players are things like Team Fortress 2. Well, maybe not Team Fortress 2, but games like that. Games like Overwatch, all the different MOBAs. And all of those games, I mean, you're interacting with real people when you play them.
Yep.
And I think there's something pretty positive about that. Also, when they talk about the multiplayer games, they split them into 3 categories, which are shooters, casual, and action games.
Please say it correctly. Shooters, casual, and action.
And action. I like how casual has a diamond as its symbol. Like, what does that mean?
It's Bejeweled.
Oh.
The casualest game of all time.
Yep.
Guaranteed.
But so it's pretty much an even split between the 3. But
so is action like encompass like MOBAs?
I assume so. That's the thing. They're not really clear on what those 3 things mean. I mean, shooters I guess. But then are shooters just like Call of Duty and Battlefront, or are shooters also Overwatch? Or is Overwatch just an action game?
I consider Overwatch a shooter.
Yeah. And I would too, but I understand why people would categorize it under action.
Most of the characters are shooting. Most of the time.
Yeah.
In Overwatch.
Unless you're playing the healer, in which case you are not.
No, Mercy has a pistol. She shoots too. Everybody shoots.
But not most of the time.
Even Reinhardt shoots. He shoots big fire waves, but only every 6 seconds.
Yeah.
He also shoots himself at the people with his charge move. Are there any Overwatch characters who don't shoot? I think all of them shoot.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's a shooter.
Therefore, it's a shooter.
When 100% of your cast shoots, it's a shooter. They don't have to shoot a gun, but they're shooting a shootable object or effect.
There are projectiles involved.
There's lots of guns. Reaper has lots of guns.
Just so many.
So many guns. I bought the spray for Reaper recently that's him opening his trench coat, and there's just tons of guns hanging on the inside of it.
Makes sense.
It's really good. It's really tongue-in-cheek.
Hey, did you ever get that Reaper skin that was like the winter Reaper skin where you look kind of like a
I
White
did.
Walker?
I got it out of a box.
Great skin.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna buy it, but I happened to get it out of a box. I got a good voice line for the new event too, where he says, "Looks like amateur hour." And I'm like, yeah, smuggest Reaper. I unironically love Reaper.
Mm-hmm.
It's my Overwatch husbando.
So China. Glad we went to the same place at the same time. In an article from 2 days ago, which was the 19th.
Yep.
From PC Gamer, we learn about a gigantic Chinese company called Tencent.
I know about these guys.
And how they are rebranding to perhaps shift out of the Chinese market into the global market.
These guys made the shitty Chinese MMO version of Monster Hunter.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. It's like officially Monster Hunter, but like it's crappy. I mean, the graphics are better, but everything else is worse.
Now these guys are extremely wealthy.
They're very big.
They own Riot Games, the creators of League of Legends.
Yes.
So that right there means they get a lot of revenue.
Yes.
But the other thing that they do is they have the Tencent, I think right now in China it's just called like the Tencent game platform. Yeah, Tencent gaming platform.
That's a terrible name.
Oh, it's really bad. Maybe it sounds better in Chinese. I don't know.
I bet it does. I bet it sounds awesome.
Yeah. But they are pretty much the Steam of China.
Yes.
And because China is so much bigger than everywhere else and everyone loves to play video games there, they're like actually way bigger than Steam. And we reported on this, I don't know how long ago it was now, like a year or two? A while ago, when the Chinese market like opened up to
it was
global.
Like 2 years ago, I think.
And ever since that, there's just sort of been one big thing after another.
I 100% believe any news given to us by this man on Twitter, because his picture is of a Dynasty Warriors character. So clearly he knows the Chinese market.
Oh no!
What are the chances?
But yeah, so Daniel, what is it?
Ahmad.
Talks about how Tencent is rebranding to be called WeGame, which is also a terrible name.
We would like to play.
See, it actually is a name that I think would have been totally fine if the Nintendo Wii never came out.
Mm.
But now, whenever anyone hears WeGame, if they don't see it written, they're going to think Nintendo.
Yeah.
And that's not going to help their marketing.
Yeah.
But,
so people think that they're doing this, though, as part of moving into a global market for this, by having like an English name and all that stuff.
And this could be a big deal because we know that their total revenue was, in 2016, was $22 billion.
Yep.
And
they make a lot of money.
And I don't see I don't think this article lists Valve's total revenue, but I remember reading about how it's like not even close to that. I think it's like a couple billion, maybe.
Yeah, but these guys do more than just this, too. They run more than just a storefront.
Yeah.
They're like a much larger, like, corporate conglomerate than that, so. Which Valve isn't so much. They're more focused on the games.
Yeah, I mean, they put out games every once in a while, but mostly they're just a storefront.
Yeah.
But that's further reason why Tencent is a force to be reckoned with, because they have so much more to bring to the table.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll get that crappy Monster Hunter.
Miserable.
Hooray!
So, this is, it's not really confirmed yet that they're going to do this. I mean, it's just rumor of this guy on Twitter saying, like, that's what their move is.
Yeah.
And even further into this article,
it says
that same guy told Motherboard more recently that he actually doesn't think Tencent is trying to compete with Steam outside of China at this point.
Yeah.
He says right now Tencent is focusing on growing the platform in China and bringing as many games, both local and foreign, to Chinese markets. Which is not a bad goal, especially if they want to make money, because we know that there still isn't really that full saturation of foreign games in the Chinese market.
Yeah.
But I think if they continue to grow, which they're probably going to, it would be foolish to think that they're not going to try to expand globally.
Yeah.
And at that point, man, Steam better get ready, because they're going to be a big deal.
Yeah. Oh,
for those who always talk about how competition is great for the free market, this could just be a good thing. We could get even cheaper PC games.
Wowie zowie.
Steam would just be giving them away for free.
I don't know. I mean, maybe. Speaking of service providers who sell CD keys, in particular for games, game keys, G2A, the same center of a bunch of drama with Gearbox, among other developers, was recently heckled by game developers at their own panel for being shady.
So we reported on this, last week with the Gearbox stuff?
This is a story from yesterday, the 20th.
And things have just gotten worse for them, because all they keep doing is doubling down on this idea that there's nothing shady about their company, and then all these people provide evidence as to things that are shady about their company, and they're just like, no.
Like, you have to pay for fraud protection on their, game keys?
Yes, the G2A Shield, as it is called, is a thing that apparently is really hard to not sign up for. Like, you have to... It's one of those things that when you buy a game, it's automatically checked, and you have to go through and uncheck it.
That's the NVIDIA Shield, you say?
Yes. And then once you do have it, it's a monthly fee, and it's really hard to unsubscribe.
Yes.
Like I think there's you have to wait until the end of the next billing cycle to be able to...
So the timing's all awkward.
Yeah, and then even when you do unsubscribe, I was reading this thing about it, it's ludicrous how difficult it is. So you wait till the end of the next billing cycle, so you've already paid for at least a month of it.
Yeah.
Then you go to unsubscribe, and they have to certify your address, your card number, and something else. So you have to send them all that information. Then you have to wait, I think, a minimum of 20 minutes for an email to come to you that then gives you a timed
link.
A
window that you can
that you can unsubscribe during. So they just make it as difficult as possible.
Right.
And what the Shield is this whole thing where you pay per month. And the idea of G2A is it's kind of... People have described it like eBay, but for game keys.
Yeah.
And what the Shield does is it says, hey, you bought this game key, and it's a fraudulent game key and does not work. Well, under normal circumstances, you just be shit out of luck. But if you have Shield, you get to negotiate for a refund.
But the question is, shouldn't they as a company be trying harder to avoid selling fraudulent game keys in the first place?
You'd
think that a more effective business model would be to just be effective enough at what you're doing, unless you're super shady, and know you're selling fraudulent game keys, and try to make an extra buck off selling fraud protection against it, quote unquote. You'd think that they would just avoid selling fraudulent game keys by keeping a better track of their whole thing.
Yeah. That would make sense.
Because the big accusations here also are that there are game keys being stolen or acquired for free through some illegal means, which I guess is just stealing. So stolen was the right thing to say.
Stolen or stolen.
Stolen or perhaps stolen, which they are then reselling through their service, perhaps knowing even that some of this is stolen. These are kind of the accusations that are being levied at them, is that they're knowingly selling stolen game keys, and it's harming indie developers and stuff like that.
It seems like the best case scenario is they just don't care that the keys are stolen.
Which is still shitty.
Yeah. Marius Mirik, which is the outbound sales specialist at G2A, was at this conference in Croatia. And he apparently was also the dude at
he was the
GDC
dude who complained to Gearbox, or brought up this stuff at the Gearbox panel or something.
Oh yeah,
or it was, I don't know if it was at the Gearbox panel, but it was during some big thing, and he stood up and was like, "Oh, but G2A though," and people were like, "Dude, what are you doing?"
So here they're at this conference, and it's just all game devs, and game devs are very unhappy about this.
And this dude basically went on stage to try and ease their worries and be like, "No, but G2A, we're good, we're cool though. You don't need to worry. You got to understand how our business works." And he's trying to explain it, and, like, everybody was just, like, not having it.
So he said, I know we're called a gray marketplace, but as our team sees it, there's nothing really gray about it, beyond people not understanding our business model.
Yes.
At which point, one of the devs at the conference live tweeted the Wikipedia entry for gray marketplace.
Yeah.
Which completely lines up with
everything about them. So he goes on to try and explain their, like, thing. Like, a large portion of the business and a lot of the reason people choose G2A is because people can get stuff at a lower price than they can elsewhere. And a lot of reasoning behind that is because of people buying games in cheaper territories and selling them to people where it's generally more expensive and make savings. Which is the very definition of gray market trading. So he goes on, and the audience just wasn't having it. Nobody was going along with him, to the point that people actually started, like, heckling him on stage. Indie dev Mike Bithell, for example, went onto a microphone and was asking him about this, like, the G2A shield system and stuff, and how, like, the pricing on it is done, and wanted to know what the, like, 90% of that, basically, like, the devs get, like, 10%.
Yeah, so the other thing in which G2A screws over people is the shield, all the money they get from the shield system, they still put the onus on figuring out if the keys are fraudulent on the devs.
Right.
But the devs only get 10% of the amount of money that goes into the shield system.
And the other 90% goes to G2A. So people are like, why?
Yeah, so this
What's
dev...
up with that?
Yeah, this dev, he says, you ask us to contribute our time and energy to detect fraud on your system for 10%.
I'm interested in this with the 750 people who work at G2A. I don't know why he says 40% of whom are women here.
Because when the heckling first started, one of the things that Merrick said to try and derail it was like, hey, you got to understand that we're a company that's really big on diversity. And he just threw out this number that they have 40% of their employees are women.
So this dude was like ribbing him, basically.
Yes.
By being like, oh yeah, 40% of them are women, though.
Yeah, no, the 40% women comment was clearly just Merrick, like, trying to change the topic.
Yeah. So you want to know, what are you doing to earn 90% of the transaction? And Merrick said, there are people working in marketing. And then Bithell just laughed. Risk and financing. Marketing, Bithell asked, interrupting Merrick. Is it really marketing? No, actually, IT and security, Merrick said. And then Bithell says, good job.
Because he asks, like, why for doing this, for only giving us 10% of the money from this IT and security thing? Like, why do you take 90%? And he's like, well, because we do marketing. And he's like, but it's not marketing.
Yeah, and then the guy immediately backpedals too. It's for marketing. But is it for marketing? No, actually, it's not for marketing.
It's IT and security, because that's what we were actually talking about. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
And then,
good job, man.
And then Bill says, good job.
Good job. So G2A is just imploding in on itself right now.
They're getting so much bad press, but I doubt it's hurting their numbers
they're
at
a pretty
all.
big company, and
people want to buy stuff really cheap.
I went to their website for the heck of it, and it looks like a shady website.
Oh, totally.
It looks like one of those torrent sites where you're afraid to click on any link because you're not sure which link is the link to just download the torrent and which one's the link that's going to, like, make your computer explode.
Oh, that's the worst.
That's what their website looks like.
I only go on those on my Mac computer because I'm like, I just want to get the viruses.
Yeah. Hey, remember Call of Duty?
Big news today, everybody. Do you like Call of Duty? Nah.
They're going back to World War II, though.
Now, we had reported on this a couple weeks ago that they were talking about rebranding.
Yep.
And perhaps going back because their latest ventures into the future.
Nobody liked the future.
Nobody liked Jon Snow in the future. People were okay with Kevin Spacey in the near future.
But they got two future and two... I don't know what Jon Snow makes the game.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Too short?
I get he's not an A-list celebrity, I'm sorry.
He's just kind of short. A little short to be an A-list celebrity.
They should have
Kit
gotten...
Harington.
You can't follow up Kevin Spacey with Jon
Have you
Snow.
seen any of those pictures of like the Game of Thrones cast where they edited Kit Harington to be like extra short?
No, I haven't
Where
seen
it's like all of them lined up on the red carpet and they made Kit Harington like half his actual size. So he's like the height of Peter Dinklage. And it's like perfectly photoshopped. It looks so funny. He's actually not that short. But people just make fun of him for it, I guess.
So we had been there had been lots of rumors swirling around that Call of Duty was going to go back to World War II in a desperate grab to get its players back.
We're so relevant.
Yeah. Remember when we were doing World War II stuff a long time ago and everybody loved it? Let's go back to that. Yeah.
Until he didn't love it anymore.
It's time to go back because, we got to make a game every year.
Yep. The game is creatively titled Call of Duty World War II.
Wow.
Excuse me. I mean WW2, I know. Live
so this
stream
is
next Wednesday.
This is Sledgehammer Games making this, which made the last really good one.
I don't remember.
They didn't make the most recent one. They didn't make the super sci-fi one.
They made Advanced Warfare?
I believe so.
Okay.
And that's generally what people consider to be the best of the recent Call of Duty games. Yeah. So it makes sense to give it to them. There's going to be a worldwide reveal about this.
Yeah, they made Advanced Warfare.
Yeah, on the 26th of this month, so in 5 days from now, at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard, 6 p.m. BST, which I assume is British Central Time? Maybe?
Possible.
I don't know.
No, Britain's on GMT.
Oh, so what's BST?
I don't know.
Interesting.
At least I think Britain's on GMT. But I don't know. So, I don't care about Call of Duty. So I don't care about this game by extension. But, and a lot of people I think are like, I mean, actually, I haven't really looked at the responses to this. I don't know how people feel about this.
The first
overall.
one on the article.
I never thought I'd crave World War II again.
Ugh.
Because, my thought on this was, it's been like 8 years since the last one that was set during World War II. That's enough time for people to probably get tired of the more modern aesthetic and think like, man, it'd be kind of cool to go back to World War II.
See, I always think that it's been way less time than that because when World War II games were the big thing, they so oversaturated the market that it still feels like they're coming out every couple of years, even though they're not.
The other thing with this is you look at Battlefield 1, which is a gorgeous video game. It is very pretty. It is very atmospheric. It is very, like, from just strictly a audio-visual design standpoint, Battlefield 1 is phenomenal. And apparently the gameplay's pretty good too, but I haven't played it. But I can't fault it for any of that other stuff. So part of me, given that our last real World War II game, like Call of Duty-wise, was in 2008, technology's come a long way. So I, at the very least, am curious to see this game because I want to know how it's going to look. I want to see World War II presented with modern video game tech and visuals and all that stuff. Because that could be pretty cool.
It could be.
Like, it could be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play it. But at the very least, it might be an interesting spectacle. To see what they end up doing with it. Like, it's been long enough that now they've substantial steps forward in the potential of, like, a video game representing World War II. Like, they could make a Normandy level that's, like, way, way, way more intense now than they could before.
Yeah.
Watch this game have VR.
Oh.
I'm gonna call it right now. VR Normandy level. They're gonna do it.
I mean, it would finally be a AAA title being like, hey, use some VR.
Yep, you got that, and also, like, man, that'd be some crazy-ass shit. So, we'll see. Atlas Games, article from yesterday, Atlas Games is like, hey, that Persona 5 game we put out is selling real good. People seem to like it. Let's register a ton of related domain names.
Ooh.
Just in case.
Just in case.
So, Persona 5, often referred to as P5, because people like to abbreviate things,
It's not even that long a name.
No, but P5, it sounds good. You got P3, P4, P5. Rolls right off the tongue.
Uh-huh.
But then you have all the little spin-off games that they've done, like Persona 4 Arena, P4A, Persona 4 The Golden, P4G, etc. And now, and P4D, Persona 4 Dancing All Night.
Dancing All Night!
But now we have domain names P5D.jp, P5U.jp, P5AG.jp, P5R.jp, and other domains like the more explicit PersonaDance.jp.
I just want to see Matt Mercer character dance all night.
The presumption is we don't know if they're actually going to like how this is going to get pushed, like how many of these will actually become spin-off games of some form. But people are obviously speculating what all these are going to be. P5D indicates Persona 5 Dancing All Night, which I'm like, I didn't care about the other one, so why would I care about this one? P5U could be Ultimax, because Persona 4 Arena was called Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. So we might get a fighting game out of it, which would be fine, because those Persona fighting games that they already put out after 4 were, like, really good.
Oh,
they were actually, like, super good fighting games. So if they do that again, that's totally fine. And also the character designs in 5 and the Persona designs would lend themselves really well to, like, a cool fighting game. The ones that people stumped are P5R and P5AG. My assumption would be some people are saying Persona 5 Racing. I mean, racing all day would be, I think racing all day would be a good contrast to dancing all night. A Persona kart racer I could actually get behind. But I think it's more likely to be like Persona 5 Rouge or Red or something, and it's like an expanded version like Persona 4 Golden was.
Yeah.
And then there's AG, which some people think might be after Golden, but I think that's dumb because that ties it way more to Persona 5 than it needs to be. And Persona 5 Golden was called that because the color theme of Persona 4 Golden, Persona 4 was yellow. So the updated version of it was gold.
Mm-hmm.
Persona 5's color scheme is red. So if they do that same kind of thing, it's going to be called like Persona 5 Rouge or Crimson or something like that.
It's just like a Pokemon game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is like a Pokemon game. You collect demons and battle with them.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a Pokemon game. So, very interesting. I didn't expect to see anything related to this for quite some time, given that the Persona 5 is still pretty recent. Even compared to its Japanese release back in September, it hasn't really been that long. But they're probably just hedging their bets and getting all these domain names right away to be on the safe side. That'd be my assumption, at least.
Yeah, I think so.
Whether anything comes of it or not is up for debate, but I don't know. Well, if they put out an updated version of P5 in like 2 or 3 years, I'd buy it. More stuff, because the Golden was a huge step up from Persona 4, so... Bandai Namco, they teased a game last week with a really cool teaser that had really cool art style. And now they announced what it actually is yesterday. It's called Code Vein. It's an anime vampire action RPG.
Yeah.
Just like you always wanted.
I mean, what I assumed it would be from the trailer.
Yeah.
An anime vampire action RPG.
Yeah. I mean... Yeah.
Yeah.
It's post-apocalyptic.
The thing that was the biggest shock to me is that it's not From Software, which is what we all thought because they used the tagline "Prepare to Dine." So I'm like, oh, it's going to be another Souls game or Souls style game.
The more I think about it, though, From Software didn't even coin that term. Bandai Namco did, so they don't even need to worry about it being similar because they're the ones who did it in the first place.
But so it's not From Software at all. It's a different company.
It's the company that made God Eater.
Mm.
The hunting game competitor, one of the competitors with Monster Hunter, and the graphics look really nice. Like it's like high quality of models for monsters and characters. I talked about it before the show with Lex that I find it looks boring, and I never like. It sounds weird to say that because there's like so much going on, but I think the fact that there's so much going on is what like I find boring about it.
Well, I think it's always weird to me the the way faces are drawn in anime is always very simplistic.
Yeah.
Which is fine if everything else is simplistic, but if everything else is hyper detailed, the faces look really weird.
That's a good point, actually. Especially look at these monsters.
And that's
kind of strange in contrast.
And it's funny because most of the time the main character is wearing masks, and the masks are hyper detailed, so then it all sort of fits together. Yeah. But if it's just their face, and then you see like their costumes and the whole rest of the background, it looks weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that's anime.
This is not the worst case scenario we thought of last week, which is this is not a phone game. So
I was really banking on a phone game. I'm happy it's not, though.
Yeah.
Because this, like, in spite of me saying I think this game looks boring, that's not to say that I don't think it's going to be a good game. In fact, it probably will be a pretty good game. It looks like a lot of money's been put behind it at the very least. And while I'm not really a fan of God Eater, the franchise has gotten substantially better since its first installment. So the people making it have clearly been learning as they make more games. So maybe this is their first jump into like a AAA title and it'll actually pay off for them.
That'd be good.
It also, I don't think it's a hunting game. It's more of like a straight up RPG, especially given that in all these screenshots we are seeing the same characters, which to me suggests that it's a set cast of characters.
Yeah.
Going through like a story.
Now this is, the setting for this, as we said, they're vampires, they're fighting demons. This seems to be sort of a post-apocalyptic world.
Yo, man, I gotta read this edgelord filled.
Oh yeah, no,
synopsis.
This game is super edgelord.
You can just tell from the art style and stuff. In the not-too-distant future, a mysterious disaster has brought collapse to the world as we know it. Towering skyscrapers, once symbols of prosperity, are now lifeless graves of humanity's past, pierced by the thorns of judgment.
Can I just point out that thorns of judgment is capitalized?
Well, yeah, dude, it's a proper noun.
Yeah.
At the center of the destruction lies a hidden society of revenants. Who are they hidden from? Called Vane. This final stronghold is where the remaining few fight to survive, blessed with gifts, capitalized, of power. But the of power isn't capitalized. In exchange for their memories and a thirst for blood. Give in to the bloodlust fully and risk becoming one of the lost, fiendish ghouls devoid of any remaining humanity. So all the vampire people are called revenants. They don't have memories. They have gifts of power. They hang out together.
Oh my gosh, a Japanese game where the characters have amnesia.
What?
This has never happened before.
I'm sure that they're all somehow related to the end of the world, and you will find that out as the game progresses. I bet on it.
Mm-hmm.
The weapons and everything remind me of like a hunting game. I mean, they remind me of God Eater, really, in its like art style. I do like some of the monster designs. I think it's the main character designs that irk me.
Yeah.
Because as a guy who's watched a lot of anime and played a lot of Japanese video games, these designs are very, like, things I've seen before.
Yeah.
They don't really have an identity. It feels like they just put a bunch of, like, anime tropey visual elements all over them.
Which I was talking about how that might hurt it in the East, but might not really be very detrimental in the West.
Well, I don't think it'll hurt it in the East either, because they love that shit.
They love it.
I think I'm just a stickler for crap because I'm overly anal about things like this. But, like, compare it to what we just talked about. We just talked about Persona 5, which, like, the characters have these crazy outfits for when they're doing thief stuff, but those outfits are, like, they're simple, they have a clear theme, and they're not, like, too busy. Every character in that game has an outfit with a set, like, this is the concept of this outfit, and it does that, and that's it. There's
they
not,
also...
like, too much going on.
They don't seem very, like, cliched anime outfits.
No. Because they're based on, like, classic thief motifs. Like, the main character is, like, the kind of, like, Lupin the Third kind of mysterious thief guy with his trench coat and his pointy boots. And Ryuji is a biker kind of guy, and An is like the cat burglar, like Catwoman. So like they all follow that kind of motif instead. And the cat is like Zorro, has like the black mask and the rapier and all that stuff. So it's you get a more like a theme of like based on classic outlaw stories and things like that, rather than it's anime. Even though Persona 5 is anime as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
But that just goes to show you can make a super anime game without falling into the pitfall of generic design.
Yeah.
Regardless, monsters look cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like the monsters. Speaking of cool monsters, look at that Hydralisk.
Hydralisk, such a great design.
He's solid, man.
I loved it when Warhammer 40k designed it. I loved it when Blizzard redesigned it.
Me too.
So, Starcraft. You ever played the original Starcraft?
Oh, yeah.
Do you live in South Korea and still play the original Starcraft?
Many people, yes.
Then
do we have a game for you?
Yes, it's the original Starcraft, and you can get it for free.
In case you don't already own it for some reason.
You probably do. But Starcraft and Brood War, the expansion, are going to be free, or I think they are currently free.
Mm-hmm.
Right now on Blizzard. You can go get them.
And they're getting a big graphics overhaul, as well as other updates, like 4K support and like other stuff.
And this is the first update that this game has gotten in like 8 years.
Yep.
Which is actually crazy because this game is like 19 years old. I think it's like almost 20.
Yeah, it is. I think it came out... I mean, I guess it came out in 98. I thought it came out in 97 for some reason. Maybe Brood War came out in 98? I don't know.
But
I'm probably wrong.
But that means that for, what was it? Even 11 years after this game came out, it was still getting updates.
Yep.
Which is pretty nuts.
People play it.
They do. They still play it. It's great.
It's a really well-balanced RTS. Like, super good.
But this is good, especially because a lot of the like max support for this game has been lacking in recent years. So it's nice that you can do that. Someone online was saying that this included updates to not only so that you could play the game on modern systems, but you can also use the campaign editor on modern systems. And I'm like, yeah, the campaign editor was the best.
It was the best. It was objectively the best. So that's cool.
Fantastic.
So let's round off the stories today. We got 2 short ones that I'll just hit real quick. Nier Automata is selling great. It's over 300,000 sales now in Japan, which is like primo sales. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. It's really weird because all of the games that Yoko Taro has made until this point have been hyper niche everywhere. So suddenly he's got like a blockbuster on his hands.
And good for him.
A blockbuster game with like Game of the Year buzz surrounding it. Yeah. In fact, like I haven't played it yet, but I'm really excited to because everyone says it's fantastic.
And it's always great to hear stories like this because he clearly did not compromise his artistic vision in this game at all. It's still very much like his super auteur style game making.
Unrepentantly weird.
Yeah.
And uncomfortable.
But people are appreciating it and loving it, and that's always nice.
Yeah. I talked to a friend, a mutual friend, because a friend that I know through our friend Andrew, Kevin, we were talking and it came out that he had played Nier, and I was like, you picked Nier up? And he was like, yeah, I just kind of picked it up on a whim for the heck of it. And I was like, how much have you played of it? He's like, I beat it. I beat all the endings. That game's real good. But like even people like him who like he likes Japanese games and stuff, but like I was surprised it didn't seem as like the thing he'd pick up, but he just did it and he loved it. And I think there's a lot of people kind of just doing that with it, which is odd for such a weird Japanese game like Nier. Shovel Knight Spectre of Torment came out today on the Nintendo Wii U. Because it was on the Switch exclusively for a while.
Oh, okay.
But now it's out on the Wii U, and on the 25th it comes out on the 3DS. So check it out! I gotta get it on the Wii U.
Oh, you know, that I think I mentioned in our Facebook that game Flint Hook came out a couple days ago.
Yes.
And so far, it has not been reviewed by very many places, but the places that have reviewed it have been giving it fantastic scores.
Like Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
It took forever for it to get reviews, but then it got like 10s all over the place.
Dude, I played that game at PAX, and it was super fun.
Yeah.
So, hey...
what's the price of it? Is it 15?
15 on Steam. Cool. I think right now it actually might be like 20% off for like launch week.
They do that a lot, yeah.
So but
check
yeah,
it out.
It's super cheap. I don't know how long it is per se, but the gameplay is fantastic.
If you're
graphics are really fun.
Off, especially it's $12.
Yeah.
What do you got to lose?
Do it.
So let's finish the show by talking about Star Wars Battlefront 2. Star Wars Battlefront 2, the teaser got leaked last week, so we knew it was coming. But now that Star Wars Celebration has happened, we got the full trailer. 2-minute trailer, kind of just shows what you're getting into. And Bernd Dierner, creative director of Battlefront 2, said in comments reported by Mashable, we don't have a season pass. Quote, end quote.
Huh.
The claim has legs because a lot of people have said Titanfall 2 took a stance with DLC, saying there'd be no premium game content, cosmetic items only. And that, happened. So, people are like, oh, maybe this is actually going to be what it is. But Titanfall's owned by its developer, whereas Star Wars is owned by Disney. And EA's got their hands in all this stuff.
There's also the thing that expectations were actually really low for Titanfall 2.
Yes.
So
that
people...
game, had a weirdly, muted release.
But
it picked up.
Critically, it was really well liked.
Yeah.
Whereas Battlefront, everyone set their expectations really high.
And was disappointed.
Well, I don't mean the players. I mean the companies putting it out.
Yes.
So when you have a Titanfall, you're like, okay, well, this game isn't going to sell. Or the developers thinking is it's not going to sell super well. So we don't need to push DLC because
we don't want to neuter it with overdone DLC.
Yeah, and if we don't think it's going to have that huge audience, then there's no one to leech money off of anyway. Whereas we know that Battlefront's going to have that huge audience, so we want to put all these DLC things in place. And I think that's part of the reason why that went down that way for those two games.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're saying Battlefront 2 isn't going to have DLC, or no season pass, not DLC. There's also reports, as we know from the trailer, that it's going to have a story mode. We know the basics for the plot of that story mode. And what were the other things? It's got space battles.
Yep.
It was going to have couch co-op, which was one of their big points that everyone was yelling about online. Like, oh my gosh, it's finally going to have couch co-op again, which then Dan brought up to me before the show. The first one had couch co-op, you guys.
Yep. You could just only do survival mode. And as far as I can tell right now, they haven't said what the couch co-op's going to entail in this game.
So it could just still be survival
mode still.
And then it's not any different than
until
the first
proven
game.
Otherwise. I'm not getting excited about nothing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, EA walked back what the developer said, basically, and said, well, we're not ready to confirm any live service plans just yet. What we can say is is this. We heard the feedback from our Battlefront community loud and clear. We know they want more depth, more progression, more content, so we're focused on delivering that in every dimension of Star Wars Battlefront 2. We'll have more to share about our plans soon. Then Dierner wanted people to know that DICE was well aware that having premium content fragments the player base. He said the community is falling apart because there's simply not many people playing the different modes. Then he added, I cannot talk about the specifics of this, but we have something different in mind that will allow you to play longer, be more invested in the game without having a fragmented community.
Now, the sort of wishful thinking that a lot of people have put forward with this is to say, okay, there isn't going to be a season pass, so that means, the number of maps that we got after a year of Battlefront 1 are going to all be in Battlefront 2 from the get-go, but all of the DLC and stuff will be like cosmetic things.
Yeah.
Like skins, maybe some downloadable heroes, perhaps. But for the main part, the maps and the game modes and everything are going to be in the game at launch.
Yeah.
And that would certainly be smart because it would prevent fragmenting of the community.
Yep.
But I seriously doubt they're going to do that.
I do too.
I think what the pessimist in me wants to say is they took all of the concerns about the first game, because they saw that in many ways the first game failed in terms of retaining players.
Yeah.
So they took all those concerns that people had that probably led to that bad retention and said, okay, well, the concerns were, the DLC and the season pass stuff and all that. So let's just say we're going to address those things and put on a big show of addressing those things to make sure we get all the pre-orders in.
Yep.
And then once all the pre-orders in, we stop caring.
Yeah. I mean, the gist of this is don't trust EA. Until EA puts forth a product that makes good on the things we are hoping for and that they're saying they're going to try and do, don't trust them.
Yeah.
And they haven't done it yet.
And it would be one thing if Battlefront 1 had been the first time they had taken this kind of development stance, but it's not.
And also if they hadn't put out that freaking collected version of it.
Oh, yeah, man.
It's so disgusting.
So what I think is probably going to happen is, and the other thing from their perspective is, like, yeah, they're not retaining players, but if you're putting out a Battlefront game every 2 years,
Yeah.
how many players do you need to retain?
Right.
Which kind of makes a good argument for them to
Yeah.
continue pushing the season pass stuff.
People are real hyped about the story mode, too, though, now. Because the first game didn't really have a story mode.
No. And, I mean, when you look back at the story modes for the original games, it's not like those were good.
The Battlefront 2 one was fine.
It was okay.
For the time and
Yeah.
for what it was. Like, it had voice acting, at least.
I did have voice acting.
And, like, different objectives from the regular gameplay. So.
In this one, we saw a bunch of the cutscenes that are going to be in the story mode.
Yeah. And I, like, spazzed out over Star Wars nerd shit related to this story because I see all these people super excited about it, and I'm like, but there's inconsistencies.
Inconsistency.
Because they've said too that this storyline's going to be canon. Like, they're like, we're Disney, it's going to be a canon storyline that takes place after the Battle of Endor. But it's all like, it's about this elite stormtrooper group who was on Endor fighting the rebels. But that's impossible because the whole Battle of Endor took place in front of one building.
Yeah, it was...
And there were like 20 rebels.
As you said earlier, it was supposed to be a covert skirmish.
Yeah, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
It's like exactly what it was.
But
also, they show these people running around the woods blasting rebels left and right. Like, this didn't happen.
Also, one of the things that's annoying to me is, like, there is an elite troop of stormtroopers called Death Troopers.
Yeah.
They already exist.
They established them now.
But instead of using those, they're just like, no, we're going to make up a different one for this game.
It's Inferno Squadron. They're like TIE fighter pilots or something. Yes.
Yep.
It's one thing if they said, like, it's one thing if the movie had not, if, like, Return of the Jedi had not objectively shown us what happened in the Battle of Endor. Then you could have some wiggle room. But the fact that it's a hard, established, here it is, in the movie, you can't really work around that this way. I do like the idea that, like, they are fighting and then the Death Star gets blown up and they're all like, now what do we do?
Yeah, no, that's not a bad premise, really.
No.
I think it
the
just
problem
would have...
is, like, the setup and...
It would have just worked a lot better if they were, like, the crack team that was supposed to show up for the Battle of Endor, but something happened that prevented them.
There.
Yeah, or right when they warped in was when the Death Star exploded.
Yeah, and then they pieced out.
Yeah.
But that's not as, like, dramatic, I suppose.
No.
That's the way that they want to do it. Also, there's all the people who are like, oh, you get to play as the Empire, you're going to play as the bad guys. But I'd put money down that these characters, or at least the main female, the commander of the Inferno Squadron, who you play as, I think, I would put money down that she's going to turn into a good guy.
Oh, definitely.
In the story. I don't think they have the chutzpah and the brass balls required to commit to a story where you play as the objective villains and just do bad things.
What you're going to get is you're going to get 1 or 2 missions where you're the bad guys, and then it's going to be like, there's going to be a mission where they're see
like,
the
kill
rebels.
Those rebels! And it's going to be like, but those rebels are children!
Yes, exactly. I was going to say the children.
I'm glad we were on the same page.
The younglings!
There's youngling rebels! I can't kill them. You have to kill them. No, because I'm going rogue Squadron.
And then she joins Rogue Squadron.
Yep.
And then the second half of the story mode is in your
you gotta put everyone in an X-Wing. You can't be in a TIE fighter all game. Nobody likes TIE fighters. They suck. But if they commit to you being a bad guy, that'll be awesome. But they won't.
And if they commit to having no season pass, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just can't. I am too skeptical because it is EA at this point.
I want you to be the leader of Inferno Squadron, and I want the whole story to be you going around post Emperor Death committing war crimes against the New Republic government.
And then the game ends.
Would be great.
Then the game ends with you and some other people starting. What is it called? The New Order.
The First Order.
The First Order. That was it.
Because they get all pushed back into far reaches of space. Because it wasn't explained in the movie, but I read the visual dictionary and it told me what happened. Thank you, book. And you can play as Kylo Ren. Everybody's favorite teenage
So even though the story mode is very much set in the timeline at a certain point,
that's important
there's going to be a bunch of maps and missions that are from all over.
Yeah,
so
prequels and new trilogy.
Which means we're getting battle droids again.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm actually excited. I always liked playing as the clone troopers. I don't really know why.
Yeah, the clone troopers somehow always had more personality than the clone troopers did, which made no sense because they were literally clones.
The literal clones have more personality than like half the cast of Star Wars.
Which, you know what? One thing the prequel movies got right.
The clone troopers were pretty cool. I like those guys. They were alright.
There's also one other thing about the trailer that I liked, which is like...
the droid?
Not the droid. No, the droid is stupid. So dumb.
You droid sidekick.
I'm so mad that people think that's a cool thing about this. But no, when there's a point where some of the characters are on like a bridge of a Star Destroyer, and there is a villain guy on the bridge who's just wearing these red robes, and he has some weird like electrical head thingy. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that looks like a cool character design. I'm interested in who that character is.
Yeah, that's fair. What just came out? What day is it?
What day is it?
Boy in the street. What day is it?
The 21st. Micro Machines.
It's Christmas Day, sir.
Take these shillings, buy a turkey.
The fattest goose.
Oh, it was a goose. That
yeah, boy.
Anyway, so...
Get a goose, idiot.
You idiot.
You eat turkey on Christmas? Who do you think you are? Guardians of the Galaxy has Telltale Series Episode 1 Tangled Up in Blue.
Well, we talked about how that was going to come out last week.
But now it came out.
And it came out.
Voodoo Vince Remastered.
Oh. Okay.
Disney Afternoon Collection.
But yeah, Micro Machines World Series was out today.
Yeah. Race tiny cars.
And in a couple days, we'll be seeing on the 25th Dragon Quest Heroes 2 on the PS4.
Outlast 2.
On all the systems.
Puyo Puyo Tetris! Don't stream it!
Don't stream it. You'll give away the ending of Tetris.
Of Puyo Puyo Tetris. Sniper Ghost Warrior 3. Siberia 3. Which is also coming out on PC on the 20th. The Siberia games are like pretty cool. Those are those like point and click adventures, right?
I have no idea what those are.
I think they're pretty cool point and click adventures. Let me click on this. Let me point and click here. Yeah, this is totally what I'm thinking of this.
Okay.
Walking Dead Season 3 Episode 4.
Coming out for everything, even droid phones.
What remains of Edith Finch?
What does remain of Edith Finch?
I don't know.
We're going to have to play the game to find out.
It won't let me click on it. On the 27th, so right before our next show, we get Psycho Pass Mandatory Happiness.
Okay.
It's like a visual novel based on Psycho Pass.
Oh, and Warhammer 40k Dawn of War 3.
Oh yeah, they're still making Dawn of War even though Total War Warhammer is coming up. Oh, but this is Warhammer 40k.
And these are, I mean, they've sort of been different depending on which one. Like, the first one is a straight-up RTS game. The second one is like a sort of a squad-based RTS game.
That's weird.
It played really weird, but it sort of made sense with the source material because it's based off the miniatures game that's squad-based.
Yeah.
And I think the third one is going back to like being straight RTS. Early reviews, though, are very positive. People seem to like it.
And then we got 1 week from now, Little Nightmares, which a lot of people are excited about. It's been getting some reviews that have all said it's pretty good. That's the one where you're like a little girl in a raincoat, a tower, and there's like spooky monster men who chase you.
Oh.
And it's kind of like a puzzler horror game. And Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Nintendo Switch.
Nice.
Which does seem to be, I've looked into it, and what it has in it. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe does seem to be a super robust game as far as Mario Kart goes. There are a ton of tracks, there are a ton of characters. There are a ton of game modes. So if you want a good-ass Mario Kart game, it looks like a good pick.
Good.
And it'll be cool to have on the Switch. You can play it on the go. You can play it while you're in a go-kart.
Oh my god.
And no, I'm not putting a disclaimer at the end of this podcast in case someone kills themselves doing that. You can die for all I care.
There's and what were the games that just came out that we were talking about? Flint Hook, you should check out.
Yes.
And what was the one you had mentioned? I'm totally blanking on
it. I can't remember. What the hell did I say?
Oh, Shovel Knight.
Yes, Spectre of Torment.
Yes,
came out today.
Is now on things other than the Nintendo Switch.
It's on the Switch, it's on the Wii U. I don't know if it's on PC yet. I don't know. Nintendo's been keeping a vice grip on that as far as having the early release for it. So it might not be out on other stuff yet beyond Nintendo systems. Because Nintendo's oh, Shovel Knight's so hot right now. Gotta get that Shovel Knight money.
It is funny that they're treating it exactly like one of their first-party titles.
They should. If
yeah,
they
no,
can.
it's good.
They made an amiibo.
It's a great amiibo.
For Shovel Knight, I have it.
Anyway,
we're
super
out
out
of time.
But thank you for listening. We have been Don't Copy That Floppy, a video game news podcast. Broadcasting live on chipit.net, also twitch.tv/DCTF podcast.
Yes.
If you want to listen to past episodes, hear more of it, please check us out on all the places we have archives, which is YouTube, iTunes, Chipit, those places.
Yeah. Everywhere. Leave us a review on iTunes. If you want to give us a little bit of money, you can go to our Patreon as well, but you don't have to. You can just leave us a review. We appreciate it either way.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week, I guess. But until then, there's a really important thing you gotta remember. Don't copy that floppy.